Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode. I promised that I would make a video about explaining deconstructing construction further. The way I wanted to make this video is to explain first how I practice and what kind of practice methods I use. Because knowing how to deconstruct or construct something, or reconstruct something, is also part of insight, and the only way you can get insight is by, sometimes having some guidance, but also practicing in a manner that's good for developing a certain knowledge about a certain style or a certain object, animal, whatever it is. Here's number one. After I finished my study, after high school, I did an art school, some kind of art school. And one thing I always did a lot was drawing in a dummy. And in these dummies I just draw it randomly, and one thing they always said is, as long as you draw, you will get better, or it will be good for your imagination in any way. Drawing whatever, even when you don't feel like it or don't know what to draw, is good for you. Now, looking back and knowing what I know now, I don't necessarily agree 100%. Because you don't necessarily improve, and you can also get stuck in a certain kind of way. But overall, what I did learn from it, because I filled a lot of dummies in the time from traveling, is that having a dummy to fill certain kind of things in is a very good thing. At one moment I started to have 2 dummies at the same time, and I did different stuff in those dummies. Sometimes they were more project related or more concept idea related, for example assignments. And that brought me to an idea to have a certain dummy for the future, to have an inspiration guide, so things that inspire me or things I want to explore, and to put it in that dummy. I haven't filled it yet, but I do have stuff, of course, that are examples for me. But the other thing was having a practice dummy. That's this one. Translates to practice makes art, which is kind of a saying in Dutch. Oefening baart kunst. Anyway, I started off with practicing. I haven't filled a lot yet, because this is a dummy I grab when I want to practice something specific. So I need to be sharp. I want to know what I want to practice, and I need to focus on that practice. Else you don't suck in that information. Well, the first thing I did was studying a comic called Velocity. It's an American comic about a superhero who has similar powers as the Flash, but slightly less powerful, as far as I've seen in the comics. What you can see, I started off with a background. Colored it kind of with Copic to have some kind of idea of how they colored, and made notes in the corner about things that I noticed about the style. The other thing was studying the faces and the construction of some kind of object and animals in those comics. The thing is, I didn't use any pencil to sketch beforehand with this style. I just drew it freely. And the thing I did next, and I'm not proud of the drawing, so I need to warn you, is trying to reconstruct the style, and also noting the things that went wrong. Well, I can say you this much: about everything about this drawing is wrong, so I won't bother showing you further. But that's a method I use. So first, study it, draw from the examples you have, and try to note down what you notice, what is different about how you normally work, and what you really notice what they use. Like, for example, with these backgrounds, they're kinda simple, really. They're outlines more than detailed. But when you see them from afar, you can see it's a pine tree. When you look up close and you study those lines, they seem very rough, a very fast sketch. They probably are. But you can see that it's very simple but effective. Zelda, horses, something I have trouble with a lot. Just noting how they use the lines, how they use shadow and silhouette, all the Zelda comics in one line. Noticing the differences between the same artist drawing in a different style for certain games. Same goes for this one. So that's kind of the thing that I do for that. For example, I grab this manga. I have my dummy with me. So I have my dummy with me, open, with a certain set I want to use for sketching. Sometimes I try to use ink, but this paper isn't really suited for it. So it mostly comes down to fine liner. And sometimes pencil, sometimes something else. But I want to use as less material as possible. And I want to really study the line work, the way they work, the way the shapes are, that kind of stuff. The way I do it, I browse through the manga and I try to find something that can be challenging. If you want to practice layouting, this can be interesting. If you want to practice decors that are weird, this could be something. This can be really awesome. Dynamic. This can be really cool. Let's see. This one can be cool. To practice dynamic. Search. Well, for example, this has a few. You can practice how they make the backgrounds or animal heads. So I just browse through the manga and I'm looking for things I think I can practice that. It's a skill I lack or it's something I want to study. And I just have it before me. I have my book under me and I try to draw it with as less sketch lines or predetermined shapes as possible and just draw the shape, draw the feel of the page. It doesn't need to be perfect, I just need to practice it. And you can also notice where you go wrong very easily because you can see your mistakes very quickly that way. Now, other thing I do. These are comic pages from famous comics like Marsupilami and Asterix and Obelix. These pages I didn't make myself. I scanned the page in from an existing page, just the same way as I browse through the mangas that are interesting to me. And this is a practice for inking and having a feel of how does this person ink? And how is this line work different from how I do it? It's a great way to practice stability in your line work and in your inking. The book is from a practice method that you remake a comic page, and this is where the construction and deconstruction is very useful. The thing is, you need to deconstruct and construct the backgrounds. You need to deconstruct the characters they made because you are going to redraw that comic page from scratch. So it's basically making a comic page, but it's already an existing comic page. You want to get as close to the original as possible. So you really need to study closely how the page is being built up, what is drawn, how the line work works, etc. And if you want to go a step further, you can also look at the coloring and try to recreate the way of coloring. But that's a really effective way. It takes a lot of time though. I think I worked about 2 weeks to get the page how I wanted it to be. It takes a lot of energy, but it's the best practice method I can show you. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to show you how I practice on paper in the different methods so you can see how I construct and deconstruct something. Due to a lack of time I have on my YouTube channel to show everything, I'm going to separate this in different parts. I'm going to make a part where I use one method and one part to the other, etc, etc. I'm going to make this a series that can really show you how I practice and also let you learn how you eventually know how to construct and deconstruct. I'm sorry this is like only a talk video. I will come back with a drawing video, I hope soon, but at least you will get a little bit of a heads up and maybe have an idea of what you can do in the meantime for practice methods. I wish you all the best of luck in practicing the way that I just showed you in books and talked about in words. And let me know if this was something useful. And I will see you next time.